Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I figured I'd share a little testimony here. I shared it on John G. Lake, a little bit about it, but I would like to share a little bit more in details, encourage people that are going through struggling with health, anything. Um, I had diabetes that I didn't know of, and I started getting feet pain, and they were getting bad and they were getting worse, where I would sleep 2 to 4 hours a night. And other than that, I was in a bathtub at night in the warm water, and it seemed like that was the only thing that calmed them down a bit. But I couldn't sleep because of the pain, and the pain never went away. I could take Tylenol, Advil, and later on I found out why they never did anything, because they don't work on nerves. So this one day, it's probably a little bit over a year, because I believed in healing. And I was pretty stubborn. I wasn't going to go to the doctor. And it took over a year. And like I said, like mostly no sleeping, pain, pain, pain. So one morning, I remember it was a Sunday morning, I went to the doctor and they checked me up, sent me home. A couple hours later, they gave me a phone call and said, you need to go take up pills because your sugar level was this and this high, whatever. And as soon as they had finished calling, probably about 10 minutes later, it was still shocking to me. And we had a pastor come from Mexico somewhere. I can't remember where it was. And him and his son stopped by. And he seen something bothered me. And he said, what's going on? I told him. And he asked me, he said, do you want to be healed? And I said, absolutely. So he said, let's go inside. So we went inside and he started talking. And he asked me, he said, can you kind of share your life story? So I kind of shared with him. And that's where he realized that I had a lot of bitterness towards my dad. And he asked me, he said, would you be willing to forgive him? And at first I was like, well, he should be the one to ask me for forgiveness, right? Because in my mind, he did everything wrong to me. And he looked at me and he said, well, aren't you born again? Didn't Jesus forgive you? And I said, yes. And then he said, well, because you got bitter towards your dad, you gotta forgive him that. And I wanted it to do that in person. But I was always afraid of my dad. Even though he never beat me, nothing, but I was always afraid of my dad. And now I can see why. It's the enemy. But it took a couple more months till we were going to go to my parents for Christmas. And we have a local church body, amazing. They've been praying the whole time for me and for healing. And each time they prayed, there was always a difference. It never stayed the same. So that's why I never gave up. And me and my pastor, we were both truckers, so we're on the phone a lot, and I share with him, like, I back then I shared things, and I remember this one time I was just so tired, seemed like pain all the time never went away, and I called him. I said, man, I just want to go home. I was so tired of living here. And he prayed again. I got courage and keep fighting again. And my pain, it got so bad where I couldn't even stand for 5 minutes. I'm a trucker, and just that my speed and clutch and all of that, I always had soft slippers in here because they were so sensitive. But going back to my dad there, where this pastor asked me that, and I said, yes, I would. And it took a couple of months, and then just the weekend before, we went down south to my parents. That Sunday, just so much pain again, and they could see it in church, and pretty much everybody had left. There was a couple of people left, and the pastor asked, he said, can we pray for you? And I said, yes, please. And they started praying for the pain and stuff like that, and I just started bawling after they were done, and he looks at me and he says, what's going on? What's the Spirit telling you? And it was as clear as the day, where the Spirit said, you need to forgive your dad. You need to forgive your dad in order for healing to start, because I had so much bitterness in me and unforgiveness. And when we went down south, I didn't want to do it in front of all the siblings, and it seemed like all day I was just a fight, and because I still had so much fear for my dad, which no reason I see now, but it came where we were both in a room together, and that was the first time I just said, Dad, and I hugged him like a little kid, just crying on his shoulder. And I don't remember hugging him ever. I bet I did when I was small, but not when I was big. Just cried there, and he asked me, he said, what's going on? And I told him, I said, how bitter I got against you, and can you forgive me? And he forgave me, and yeah, me and my dad have an amazing relationship now. It's awesome. But I started, because I went to the doctor, I was on 4 diabetes pills a day in the beginning. I was testing every whatever they told me to, and we went to eating course there on how I was supposed to eat, and my wife Susie, she wanted to do everything she could with food, so that that she wouldn't be to blame for it. She's an amazing cook, and we went to these food courses, and she started cooking like that, and it seemed like it didn't matter what I would eat exactly the little portions that they wanted me to eat, and it's crazy anyways the way that is, and it didn't go down. And one Sunday morning I came to church, and pastor asked me how I was doing, and I told him, and he just laid his hands on me right away and prayed for those numbers to come down, because they told me if they weren't going to come down, that they were going to put me on an insulin. And right away after that, my numbers always stayed down. They had me on 3 at night, 2 in the morning, pills that are for people that have seizures. These pills, they trick your mind not to trigger the nerves. Something like that, anyways, to my understanding. I was on 5 of those, and I had to start them really slowly. Then I was on some kind of other pill yet, and in total, I think I was on 11 pills a day, prescription. And I used them for a little over a year. I was able to start sleeping better, and because of my feet, they were so bad, I lost complete feeling in them. Like for hot and cold, I can never feel if my feet they were hot or cold. I lost that touch. When I would take a bath, I would have to feel with my hands, because I couldn't feel with my feet. If I would step in there and sit down, I remember this one time I jumped out because it was so hot, the water, and my feet never felt it. I would say I got 95% of my feeling back, and I know I'll get them 100% back. I can feel warm. I can feel, it's just awesome. Uh, but we kept going and we kept praying and kept believing. And why it took so long, I don't know. But it was about a year and a half battle. But each time they prayed, there was a difference. And then my pastor put me on to Curry Blake. And I started listening to the DHT, and that helped me in my faith. But then we realized there was Pastor Marty, John G. Lake Canada here, and they were in Edmonton. And I didn't have time to go for all the three for some reason. But we went for the last session there, the last day. And I heard some of the DHT. They ministered to me. And when we left there, I cut my pills in half. And I went there to invite them to our church. And they came, I think, about a month or 2 months later. And that is when I heard a whole DHT, and where he killed so many sacred cows of what you grew up on. And the DHT, it just shows you that it is God's will for us to be healed. And it's always God's will. And when Jesus walked on the earth here, he healed everybody that came to him. And after he ministered, he asked me when he ministered, he said, "Don't tell me what you have." He said, "Tell me what you want." And I told him, I said, "I want to get off of my pills." And he prayed that, and I believed it because I've heard so much truth about the word, and so many sacred cows died. I went home and I never took a single pill after that. I never had any withdrawal or anything. I was done. But did the pain try to come back in some sort of form? Yes. It still does every now and then. But I know that I'm healed. And where I went to specialists, and with a cow prod, they were seeing how dead my nerves were, and he said it was so bad. And I told him I was going to get healed, and the doctor didn't believe me, but that's okay. Because back then I couldn't stand for 10 minutes, and now it's been a year now where I haven't taken a single pill, and I can work all day. I am healthy, and I can be on my feet all day. I'm so thankful to the Lord for what He's doing, for everybody that helped and stood with me, helped me fight this thing, and yes, I was good. And then it was about, I still had all my pills at home. This is how the enemy works. One day my wife texted me and she said, "What should I do with those pills?" I said, "Grind them and throw them in the garbage." And she did. She threw them away. And then after that, for a whole week, I had to fight. It was like I had been 4 or 5 months. My feet were completely good. But in the back of my mind, somehow I knew I had those pills. But when we got rid of the pills, then the enemy tried to put fear back in me. And I said, no. I said, "No, you will not. I'm healed." I haven't taken them for 5 months, and it was only about a week. And after that, I was good again. But it's just how the enemy tries to put fear back, or try to put a little bit of some sort of that pain that you had before. Because if he can put fear back in us, then we're in trouble. So I just want to encourage anybody that's fighting things, don't give up. Push through and always go for the now. Because it is always Jesus' will to heal you instant. Why I had to go so long, I don't know. But always go for the instant. And I got healed. And yes, I've been 1 year without pills. And I can be on my feet all day. I just want to share this for the glory of God, and that people may be blessed by it. God bless you, everybody.